considers foolish in order to shame those who think they are wise. And he chose things that are powerless to shame those who are powerful. God chose things despised by the world, things counted as nothing at all, and used them to bring to nothing that which the world considers important. And as a result, no one can ever boast in the presence of God. Right? God kind of set this whole thing up so none of us get to say we're better than anybody else. Right, you know what I see there when I'm reading that is I see God categorically breaking down all of our assumptions about what is important in life. Right? Another reminder that all of the things that this world tells us we should be chasing after mean nothing to God. Right? And a lot of the things that we discount, a lot of the things that we don't pay attention to are exactly what God would have us focus on. Right? God's showing us that wise people aren't perfect people. In fact, people that we think are foolish are going to shame wise people. Right? Have you ever thought you were all smart and then somebody came along and was like, "What are you doing, dummy? You're looking at it wrong." Right? Important people, they're not perfect. People that we think are nobodies, people that we think are completely unimportant, can bring important people shame. Right? Often the things that society values are shamed by the things that society tells us are worthless. Right? And when you think on that, think about what kind of things do you let get in the way of a lesson that God might have for you? Right? Do you tell yourself that, well, I've traveled all over the world. I've seen the world. This person hasn't even left that small town. What do they have to teach me about life? Right? Why should I be listening to this lady talking to me? She's got no authority. She's got no nothing. Why should I pay attention to what they're saying? Right? Who does this guy think he is to tell me what to do? He's not important. I'm important. I'm the pastor. You're just sitting there. Why are you telling me something? Right? How easy it is for us to just put some wall up, some stumbling block between us and whoever it is that God would use to teach us. Right? Why would I listen to that guy that can't even afford real shoes? He runs around in robes. He doesn't have a house, no place to put his head. He mooches off his friends. I don't think I've ever even seen him work. And you guys catch what I did there? She caught it. That's Jesus. Right? How much does it talk about him working? How much does it talk about him being, impressive and full of worldly power? No, in spite of all of that, in spite of the fact that he came into a lowly life, he had authority. He had it. Not that he talked with it because he had read something that had authority. He had it. Right? Jesus is the truth. Right? Most of us know that passage that Jesus is the way and the truth and the light. Right? And see, truth is no less true because we don't like what it's packaged in. Right? And boy, that's a hard one, right? Because a lot of times the truth is packaged in the mouth of someone we don't like. Right? In the mouth of somebody that seems to have like political leanings that are the opposite of mine. Right? Or, well, man, you're like Calvinist and I'm Arminian. How can I be listening to what you're telling me? Right? We just get so focused on division, so focused on a reason not to listen, on why you can't be right. But see, it was the people who could see past what society told them they should care about. They could see past that and see the truth. They could see that even though this man was in rags, even though this man didn't have worldly authority, he had true authority. He had the truth for them. Right? God wraps his truths up so that we can't see them without the Holy Spirit. Now, how many of you have seen that show, Undercover Boss? Anybody watch that? Yeah. Jack, I felt like this would fit. You've been doing the reality TV series, so you're allowed to steal this one if you want. But, it's this show where big company CEOs, they go undercover, they put on a disguise, and then they go into their own company in like an entry-level position. They get this whole backstory about how, they're starting a new job, and it's a reality TV show, so that explains all the cameras and everything. And, they get all dressed up, and the bosses would go in, and, the good ones at least, they'd go in and they'd be interacting with these employees that have no idea that they're dealing with the boss, right? That this person has the power to, fire them, give them a raise, and do all that. And he's seeing how they really think of the company. They're seeing what the employees really say when the boss isn't around, right? And then there's like this huge reveal at the end where, the boss takes off the thing. Oh my goodness, I didn't know it was you. And then it's just so much fun because at the end of it, he tells them who he really was, and he rewards the good employees that have been going unrecognized, right? There's just like a mailroom clerk that has been going above and beyond just because that's what they do, and here's the boss, he sees it, and next thing you know, he'd heard a story about like college bills or something, and the boss pays all the bills off. Just this amazing little reward that's given, and it's not like the people are trying to get sympathy out of this person because they know they are the boss, they know they have money and they have means. No, they're just being real. They're being honest, they're being present. And then on the flip side, and this is kind of the guilty pleasure side, is you get to watch those jerk employees get punished, right? You watch them, they're like, oh, and they're running their mouths and doing all this stuff, and then just to watch them kind of sink when they get their comeuppance, and like, oh, when you realize I was talking like that to the boss, right? And then it's fun because you get to see some mercy, and half the time they do a follow-up story about how, hey, the boss sent them to training, and instead of just being like, get out of here, you're fired. He had some mercy on them. He gave them a little bit more training, and now they're flourishing and they're doing great. Man, there's a lot that you can read all into that. I'll let the Spirit take your minds where you want with that. But what I got from all that, what I kind of am teasing out of that is, I feel like God is kind of pulling off the ultimate episode of Undercover Boss with us often. Right? If not him specifically, he's sending his angels. Right? We're told that some of us have entertained angels without even knowing it. Right? So that means we have interacted with angels, some of us, without even knowing it. You might have an angel in front of you and not know it. You might want to treat that person like they have something to teach you. Can you imagine the things that an angel may share with you if you invited them off the street and into your house and shared your food with them? Not because you knew that they were the angel of God, but just because, hey, I'm a Christian. I'm supposed to be hospitable to strangers. I'm supposed to bring them in, and look, I did it. Not because I'm looking to get anything, but because that's who we're called to be, right? We treat others like they have something to teach you because we don't know who others really are. It doesn't matter what perception we have of them. It's still just our perception. Right? Ever heard that saying that nobody knows the same version of you? Everybody knows a different you? Because we all have a little bit of a different relationship with everybody. So now, do you think that the Holy Spirit moving in someone will always be obvious? Is it always going to be, accompanied by fire from above and choirs of angels? Or do you think that maybe, just maybe, it might happen with no fanfare at all, with nothing to draw our attention to it, with nothing to let us know that we were dealing with the power of God? Sometimes God does not announce himself in trumpets and fanfare. Sometimes he announces himself in that still small voice that tells you what you should be doing. The one that we're really, really good at ignoring and drowning out. And so, and I believe that God, right, the great architect, the great engineer, and the great builder, the creator of all this, the one who figured it all out, he has the entire and complete capability to lead someone to say or do something without the person even realizing that it's anything out of the ordinary. But it happens to be exactly what I needed to hear, or exactly what you needed to hear in just that little moment of struggle. Amen. Right? How many times do we discount those and we question them, right? Oh, no, that couldn't be God talking through them. That was just them being nice. Can't it be both? And now, one of the greatest things that can be taught to us from strangers, especially in my opinion, if we can really pay attention, is a change of perspective. Right? Because we can all get so caught up in our life and how we're viewing things, and we have so many filters that are piled on us from just the way society tells us to look at things, and the way our family tells us to look at things, and the way that our religion tells us to look at things. And there's just all that stuff there that gets in the way. And sometimes to be able to pull those off or step to the side and look at something from a different perspective is life-changing. And a while back, I was listening to a podcast, and I wish I could remember who it was so I could give them credit, but oh well. They say plagiarism is one of the more sincere forms of flattery, so here we go. I want you to try and, close your eyes if that helps you visualize and imagine, and just really try to put yourself in this. You're tired. It was a rough morning with the kids, and it just rolled right into a long, draining day at work. And now work's over, you're physically and mentally exhausted, and now you get the pleasure of riding the city bus home because your spouse had to have the car because their car's in the shop. And well, guess whose work is closer to the bus stop? Mine. Right? And to top it all off, it's raining, and my umbrella is in the car my wife has. Right? We've all had days like that, where it's just one after another, and we start to spiral. And like the details are a little off, but that frustration and that creeping bitterness that comes in, like that part's pretty spot on. Right? And so anyways, you get on this bus, and you're just primed. You are just not happy. And immediately you're assaulted by the sound of kids bickering with each other and running wild up and down the aisle. And you just grit your teeth and kind of look away, and you try to take a seat as far away from all of that as you can so that you can get on with that important task of stewing on how terrible your day has been. And you're trying, right? You're sitting there trying to keep going through all the terrible things that have happened in your mind, but you can't even focus on that because these kids are being too loud, and especially not when they're bumping in your chair. And so finally, you've just had enough, and you're looking at this lady, and she's not even paying any attention to her kids. Come on, lady, be a parent. And you know what? I'm going to say something. Lady, hey, your kids are being just, come on. And she looks up with her phone, and your perspective starts to change, because when you got on the bus, you didn't see her face. You sat behind her. Now you can see her eyes. Now you can see how red and puffy they are around the eyes. And everybody's starting to feel themselves shift a little from like, how dare that, to, oh, right? You notice that, man, she just got done crying. I can still see that wet there. I can see that like puffy, ugly cry face that we get, right, when we just can't hold it back anymore. And she, I'm sorry, gets her kids over and brings them in. And you can't help but notice, you're not being nosy, but her phone flops over where you can see it. And I mean, who can't look at a phone when it flashes at you nowadays, right? And you're not trying to look, but you notice those words, cancer and terminal. What a shift in perspective, right? No longer are you looking at some woman who has no control of her kids and doesn't care and is irresponsible, right? All of a sudden your perspective's changed to, oh my goodness, I've got some compassion for that person, right? If you have some empathy, you start imagining yourself there. All right, now empathy is a little short. Your perspective still changes. Even if it's not empathetic, it just changes from everybody is going to think I'm the hero for telling her to get her kids under control to, oh man, now people might not think I'm as awesome as I am. But if you've got some empathy, you're in her position, right? All of a sudden you're thinking about, what if that cancer that I saw, what if that's her? What if that's her spouse? Or, oh my God, what if that's her kids? Right? How would I deal with that situation? Do I think that if I just found out that I'm going to leave my family behind, I've only got a month or two, am I going to be the most attentive father in that moment? There's a good chance not. My mind's probably preoccupied. All of a sudden, I have some compassion. All of a sudden, I have that different point of view that lets me take it away from myself and away from how it is impacting me and making things inconvenient for me. And a lot of us look at it and go, you know what? I will suffer extra inconvenience if there's anything I could do to help you. And now that change of perspective, hopefully it doesn't stop there, right? The change of perspective of that moment, of that instant. No longer are you irritated with this person. Now you have some compassion and you're feeling bad for them and you're just thanking God that you've been blessed enough not to be put in that situation, right? And that change of perspective, it cascades down through your life almost as much as you will allow it to, as much as you want to keep putting yourself into these tough scenarios, right? My perspective on work might change, right? Because now maybe my coworkers, they drive me nuts, but man, at least I've got a job that I can go to, and at least I'm healthy enough to do the job that I need to do. Right? Instead of being irritated that the spouse backed the car into a telephone pole and now you got to have it in the shop, you're thankful, like, man, I've actually got two cars, so I can have one in the shop, and my wife still gets to drive, and I happen to be close to a bus stop. Right? Imagine what it would be like to have medical bills so high that I can't even afford to keep a car. Right? You start thinking of all these scenarios that, okay, maybe I wouldn't be perfect in that scenario. Maybe I can think of ways that although that person is unpleasant to me, although that person I don't particularly enjoy being with them right now, maybe, just maybe, there's something that I could have been dealt, some hand I could have been dealt in life that actually would have made me turn just the way they are, made me react exactly the way they are. Maybe, just maybe, I will be put in a position where I will be hoping and praying that everyone around me can have a little bit of compassion and mercy because I can't be perfect right now. Right? All because you saw someone and stopped thinking about how it's affecting you and started thinking, well, maybe there's something I can learn from them. Right? Your perspective on that spouse might change. Right? Anybody get that irritation feeling in the middle of the story? Because, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but sometimes it's easy to blame all your problems on your spouse. Right? Like they're the easy scapegoat. They're the blame sponge. Don't look at me like that. I don't actually do it. And it's not intentional, but sometimes it's just so easy because we're getting riled up in that negative thinking, right? And man, it just gets a hold of us and we downward spiral into it, right? And you can just think like, Well, this terrible day was obviously all their fault. Because, if they hadn't have backed into the light pole, car wouldn't have to get fixed. Car didn't have to get fixed. I'm not stuck without a car. I wouldn't have gotten rained on, right? She didn't make it rain, but she did make the appointment on this day that it rained, so that's at her feet too, right? It's so easy to put that blame on, but when you step out of your irritation and you realize, wait a minute, my day that I'm complaining about and getting all worked up about is nothing, is desirable compared to this poor lady's day that I just realized I yelled at her after she got terminal cancer diagnosis. Maybe my day's not so bad. Maybe my spouse isn't so bad, right? Maybe I'm going to go from grumbling about my spouse and remind myself that, I actually love them. And the thought of losing them petrifies me, actually, right? Because how many of us are guilty of treating the ones we love like there will always be a tomorrow to apologize for how bad we were? Oh, come on. You guys, only one again. It's okay if you don't want to raise your hand in front of everybody. But yeah, we just have this problem of, and I think part of it is because it's like we're safe, right? They have to love us. They agree. They took that vow, better or worse, and man, I'm going to test you on that worst part, right? But we do, and we get so caught up in that, and it's so easy to just kind of come in and unload all of our frustration on them and almost blame it on them. But if you can come in with some perspective, you can come in and step back and go, you know what? All right, quit whining about some unpleasant moments during the day. Count your blessings and be grateful. And maybe I will come home and just be like, oh man, babe, I saw this lady on the bus and I think she's got cancer. And I started thinking about, I don't know what I would do if you got cancer and I knew that I love you. Babe, I love you. I just got to say that. I would do anything for you. I would walk through the rain for you. It was worth it. I would do anything for you. And now, ladies, if you hear a man say, I will do anything for you, he means like slay dragons, dive into a burning building to save you, taking his shoes off before he gets in the house, or taking the trash out without being asked may not be what he is talking about with the I will do anything for you. But on that note, I just want to encourage everybody to just try to step back and remember, everyone has people that are difficult to deal with. And it's different for each of us. Everyone sees someone that is coming, they see him coming down the aisle in Rays, and they duck to the other aisle kind of quick, or they just go, okay, now I'm ready. Right? But if we can get through that and we can remind ourselves that, you know what, even this person that kind of rubs me the wrong way, even this person that drains me a little bit, that person has the full and total potential of bringing a lesson from God to me. So maybe I can set aside my personal issues and try to be that person that God calls me to be. To have that patience with a person that makes me feel impatient. To have mercy with someone that I don't feel very merciful when they're just droning on in my ear and I want to work. To have forgiveness for that person that says things that you really don't like, and realize that even in the middle of the 10 things they said that you didn't like, there was one thing, if I was paying attention, that was from God that I needed to hear, that was going to hit home. As long as I was present and open to it. So I ask you guys to pray with me. While we're praying, I'm going to ask the worship team to come on up, and I'll just end this morning with some